Hoops, hoops, and some more hoops. That's what's been the talk of Storrs, Connecticut lately, and that's what's on the menu tonight. Alongside Ryan Panny, I'm Noam. Welcome to this week's edition of UC Sports, our final episode of the fall semester and thus of this decade.
A bittersweet end to an amazing decade for UConn sports that saw 10 national championships, countless conference titles, and a bunch of memorable moments. One of my favorites, of course, is the cardiac Kemba, but we can get into that later. We've got a jam-packed show covering all the latest action from UConn athletics.
So let's get right into it. Without any further ado, UC Sports starts right now. On Sunday, the UConn men's basketball team beat Maine 64-40, but it wasn't as smooth as the score indicates. The Huskies picked it up in the second half and pulled away, riding Brennan Adams and James Bouknight to the finish line. The Huskies struggled shooting just 38%. Fortunately, they held Maine to 35%. Moving on in the schedule, before the Iona game, Coach Hurley spoke of his team's improved defense, and particularly the role Akok Akok has played in improving the team's overall defense.
He's helped change our whole defensive identity, and his energy level is the main reason of all the new guys. Cook is the main reason why we're trending in the right direction, because of the energy level he plays with and how he's allowed our defense to get better just with his length and he's a game changer at that end of the court.
The Huskies returned to campus on Wednesday night for a battle against Iona, an always competitive team from the MAC. It was the much-anticipated Gamble debut of Bouknight, and we were all looking forward to seeing an improved Brennan Adams as well. But although Bouknight almost threw down an unthinkable dunk, that show would have to wait as the veterans shined. Josh Carlton had his best performance of the year, posting 19 points and 12 boards and showing toughness in the paint that Coach Hurley has been looking for all season. He finished multiple and ones and just dominated all game. Christian Vital got off to a hot start and finished with 16 points and 9 rebounds, and Tariq Gilbert facilitated beautifully, posting a double-double and having just 1 turnover. UConn ran away in the second half yet again for an 80-62 victory. The Huskies' next game is at the Mecca. We'll get to that soon. Now, while he didn't have his best game of the year last night, the emergence of James Bouknight has brought tremendous attention to Connecticut basketball. The kid can flat out play. He can stretch the floor with his shooting ability. He can get to the rim with total ease. He can rebound. There's really not much he can't do. He also plays with a ton of swagger. It's been super exciting to watch him, and he's only going to get better. Now, after a quick break, I'll be joined by Jake Ferrari, our men's basketball analyst, so stay tuned. Jake, thanks for joining the show tonight. Let's talk some more about the men's team. Obviously, they have a ton of momentum right now after a super successful weekend down in Charleston and then 2 wins since they've been back home. What's been the key difference for Coach Hurley's squad this year?
Well, I think you can really see the difference from last year to this year and just the defensive intensity that this team brings to the table every single night. Now, right now, advanced metrics, Ken Palm has them ranked 50th in the nation.
Ken
Top
Palm.
50 in the nation. Yes, we love Ken Palm. We love all
Palm.
those advanced stats that we don't understand. But compare that to last year, they finished 129th. Vast improvements there. You've seen it in game. Their win against Florida. Florida shot horribly from the field. I mean, they dominated Miami the entire game defensively. And 28 turnovers for Maine. You love to see that. Turn it over, fast break opportunities. And you can really credit that to Akok Akok. And Dan Hurley said that in media the other day, that how big of an impact Akok Akok has had, just because he's a guy that can block shots at the rim, so you can apply the patented Dan Hurley pressure defense. Let the guys get by. If it happens, it happens, but Akok's going to be there to send you back, and he has been a huge presence on the glass.
Yeah, he has been both on the glass, and his length it's crazy.
It is, yeah.
It seems like any shot in the paint, he's going to alter in some way, whether it's a block or just forcing a bad shot, and their defense has been suffocating. 40 points against Maine. Iona shot terribly last night, so it's been really good to see that patented Dan Hurley press and then, in turn, the defense step up. We've also seen some new guys step up this year, starting with Bouknight, obviously, but also Brennan Adams. He's averaging 10 points per game this year, and also Akok, who we heard Hurley say is the defensive anchor. Now, how much does the emergence of some depth do for Coach Hurley in terms of being able to utilize fully, an 8, 9, even a 10-man rotation?
I mean, it's huge, and he talked about, again, last year how he was kind of had to force guys into minutes so he probably wouldn't have played on a more talented team. But now that they have the talent, it's more of a fight for minutes. And two of the bench guys, Brendan Adams and James Bouknight, the freshman, have been pretty much their best players all year. I'd say their most consistent players all year. Brendan Adams' offensive rating is top 40 in the country.
Yeah,
and how many college basketball players are there? I mean, there's a ton. So what he's done to improve is impressive. And again, like Hurley said, when there's a fight for minutes, guys have more incentive to work harder in practice, to listen to what he says, because if not, then there's always someone there who's going to take their minutes. And to what we were talking about before with Dan Hurley's pressure defense, now if they have a 10-man rotation, they can afford to play hard for however long they're on the court defensively. If they get a foul, there's going to be someone who can step in their shoes and be competent this year, which was not the case last year.
Now, 2 points for me to add to that. Brendan Adams, huge step up from last year. The play that I've seen the most demonstrate that this year is his fast break dunk against Maine. When he went up, yammed it on somebody. Last year, a couple times he went hard to the paint and just couldn't quite finish the dunk, whether it was confidence, whether it was physical ability. This year, he landed that blow. Second point, 10 men able to play. Last night against Iona, the 5 bench players were out on the court, not playing well. What did Hurley do? He yanked all 5 of them at once. Literally hockey sub, yes. So these guys are always fighting for every single minute. Now, last question, Jake. UConn returns home to Madison Square Garden, their second home, on Tuesday night to face Indiana in the Jimmy V Classic. How excited should UConn Nation be for Tuesday night?
Well, this is a very important game, so they should be excited. I mean, we all love watching UConn in the New York City lights play at Madison Square Garden, where they've had so many incredible moments. Indiana is a great team. Now, they're not in the top 25 yet, but they received votes last week. They just beat number 17 Florida State. They crushed them.
Yeah.
And then they have a pretty big game against Wisconsin this weekend, where if they win, I'm almost positive they will be in the top 25. And KenPom, again, they're ranked 20th right now. So, I mean, usually KenPom is a good indicator of how teams finish their season. And so the UConn Huskies, they played some cupcakes opponents the past 2 games. If they win this game, I think it can launch them onto the national stage. Now, it's not going to be easy because Indiana is a big team who has effective scorers, consistent scorers from their bigs. Trace Jackson Davis is a freshman, 6'9", averaging 15.5 points per game, and forward Justin Smith is averaging over 14 points per game. So the Huskies are really going to have to focus on stopping those 2 guys and not letting them bang them down in the post. But a win, which I think is pretty possible given that UConn's going to probably have a pretty big home court advantage.
Oh, yeah.
I think if they win that game, they'll definitely receive some votes. It'll give them momentum going into conference play. This is their last big non-conference game until they play Villanova in January. So hopefully they can take the memory of Syracuse last season, bring it back, fire up the Madison Square Garden crowd, and get that victory this weekend.
I'm incredibly excited. It's going to be a huge opportunity. They did play a couple of cupcakes. Iona, I think, is better than some people predict. They're generally pretty strong, but this is another big opportunity for the Huskies to pick up a non-conference win at a neutral site. They're going to have Madison Square Garden behind them. It's going to be a good one. That's Tuesday night, Jimmy V Classic, tip-off around 9:30. So, Jake, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a quick break. When we're back, Ryan will be back on, and we'll get to women's hoops as well as the hockey teams and our weekly Husky High Five Plays of the Week.
All right, that's all we got for today's meeting. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Jonathan. No, come on. Say what you got to say. Open forum. No, come on. Please.
Well, I think what Jonathan's trying to say that UCTV Sports is going to be doing more live broadcasts this next semester.
That is a great idea, Jonathan. Good boy! Good boy!
As per usual, the women are off to a dominant start. They are 6-0 and seem to be hitting on all cylinders. Early concerns regarding the loss of Kitty Lou Samuelson and Nafisa Collier have been swept under the rug. with the emergence of young stars Olivia Nelson-Ododa and Kristen Williams. Williams has popped off this season, already with 107 points through 6 games, shooting an unbelievable 51% from the field. The real story has been Nelson-Ododa, though, who has stepped up big time this season, becoming a reliable member of the starting rotation. She leads the team in both rebounds with 61 and blocks with a conference best 28 and second best in the nation. Needless to say, the Huskies' future looks very bright. They'll look to remain hot as they currently battle Seton Hall down in Jersey.
Switching gears to the women's hockey team, the team has hit a bit of a rut after beating number 6 BC for the second time this season. The Huskies have lost 3 straight, the home game of the weekend set against BC, and then they fell twice in the Nutmeg Classic in Hamden this past weekend. On Friday, it was a 6-2 loss to in-state foe Yale, and on Saturday they were beat soundly, 5-1 by number 10 Minnesota Duluth. Despite those 3 losses, UConn still boasts an 8-7-1 record, and they're playing Providence this evening. They'll return home Friday night to host the Friars again in the second set of that home-and-home matchup before having an extended break before a matchup at home on January 3rd.
As for the men, their season has not gone as planned early on. They struggled out of the gate, losing 2 and tying once in their first 3 games. Since then, the Huskies have gone 5-5, with their most recent wins coming against Miami, Ohio, not to be mistaken with the U, this past weekend. In the game on Friday, the team leaned heavily on dominant play by wingmen Zach Robbins and Brian Regali, who combined for 5 assists. 5 different players scored in that game, with Vladislav Firstov leading the way with 2 goals of his own. Saturday's game saw much of the same for the Huskies. After falling behind early, they bounced back with 2 goals of their own to take the lead heading into the final period. After the game was tied just moments later into the third period, right winger Brian Regali struck again, giving the Huskies the lead. And Jan Kuznetsov netted the game-winning goal just moments later. The Huskies returned to action on Friday and Saturday with back-to-back matchups against the Vermont Catamounts. We're going to send it over to the Husky High Five analyst Danny Barletta for our final high five of the 2019 year.
What's up, everyone? I'm Danny Barletta with the Husky High Five, the top 5 plays from the past week in UConn sports. Let's get right to it. Number 5, men's basketball, Brendan Adams makes a nice steal at the defensive end and turns that into 2 points on the other side with a nice transition layup in the Huskies' win over Maine on Sunday. Number 4, staying with men's basketball, but this one in the win over Iona on Wednesday. Josh Carlton finishes a tough and one and then flexes on the competition. Number 3, same game, Christian Vital on the defensive end comes up with a statement block and follows that up with a stare down. Great play by Christian. Number 2, staying in the Iona game, we go to James Bouknight, who delivers a perfect feed to Sid Wilson, who finishes the alley-oop. And finally, number 1, we go to men's hockey against Miami last Friday. Brian Regali with a nifty pass to Justin Howell, who nets his first goal of the season. This one's so nice, we got to look at it twice. Look at that pass through the defender's legs, and Howell buries it. This was the top play of the week for college hockey, and it's our top play in the Husky High Five. All right, that'll do it for this week's Husky High Five. I'm going to send it back to the studio now with Ryan and Noam.
Before we close our show, we do want to share some news about our department, as this will be the final show of the fall semester. Jake Ferrari, who joined me earlier to discuss men's basketball, will be taking over as the UCTV Broadcast Productions Manager, overseeing the news and sports departments. My co-host, Ryan Panny, will be the next UCTV General Manager. We are incredibly proud of him and cannot wait to see where he takes UCTV going forward.
And as for Noam Watt over here, he's taken over sports director, which I was this past semester. We've done a lot of good work this semester, and I can't wait to see how he takes it going forward in the future.
So, lots to look forward to within UCTV. We hope that you will stick with us throughout the journey. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll have lots of coverage in the coming weeks of the men's and women's basketball teams, so stay up to date with all that content on Twitter and Instagram at UCTV Sports. Plus, as usual, all our content and more from the other departments in UCTV is on our YouTube channel at UCTV Channel 14.
For Noam Watt and the entire crew, I'm Ryan Panny. Good luck on all your finals, have an amazing holiday season, and a happy new year. Good night, everyone.